Hello, welcome to Mr. Paul's Pantry. I'm Mr. Paul and it's nice to see you all here again. If you're a new visitor, a very warm welcome, and a nice warm welcome to all my returning visitors too. Now today I'm going to do a very simple recipe, but I get lots and lots of requests recently for recipes that will feed a family on a budget, obviously for obvious reasons with today's economic situation. And so I've been looking back at the things I used to make as a student when I was at a bakery college. In fact, if you look on my website and in the little search box on the first page, you type in sausages, you'll see one of my very early recipes called sweet and sour sausage, which we used to make. Don't forget, I was at bakery school. We were learning to bake. We weren't learning to make meals. We didn't know anything about cooking. So it was about half a dozen or 7 of us, I think, sharing this accommodation and this kitchen. And we used to take it in turns at producing the meal for that night for everybody. The sweet and sour sausage was given to us all by one of the students, whose mother used to make it, and I've used it ever since. A very simple recipe. Now this is also using sausage. I'm using sausage because I started my working life as a pork butcher, charcuterie, and the first thing I made was sausages, and so I still make my own sausages. This is a curried sausage dish, and lots of people write and ask me, when I'm making curries, why do I use all those lists of ingredients instead of buying a pot of curry powder? Well, I'll just explain that to you before we go any further. If I'm making Indian type dishes, curry type dishes, they all use very similar or the same spices, but in different proportions. If I use a box of curry powder, I can't do that. I can't change it. It's all in there. It's in or it's out. So I use all the spices to make the recipe. But there are certain instances, like this one I'm going to show you, where a pot of curry powder, you can adjust the heat of it without bothering about all the other spices. You can either buy a pot of mild curry, medium curry, or a hot curry powder. And it's as simple as, and you can buy that from any supermarket, of course. So this is a curried sausage recipe which will fit any budget, all depending on which sausage you decide to buy. If you go to a supermarket and buy their budget sausages, they're cheap and they're nice. Today, I know sausages had a very bad press over the years, especially during the war, when it was full of bread and not much meat. But today, in all countries in the world, or almost all countries in the world, the meat content is fixed by law. So even the cheapest sausages have to have a certain amount of meat in them to be sold over the retail counter. So you don't have to worry. If it's a cheap sausage, it won't have as much meat in, but it will have a minimum amount of meat for your well-being. If you want to buy a premium sausage, one that's got a lot of meat in it, 60, 70, 80, 90% meat, then you go for it. So you can make this recipe to suit any budget. The one I'm going to show you today, I used to make when I was doing my training as a baker. I used to make it for the crowd of us, and I used to feed 6 people out of this recipe. Okay, 6 people. Now I'll just make this. I think I've mentioned it to you before. If you go to my website, most of the recipes, and not all of them, I can't do it with all of them, where you see the serving size, in this case it'll say 6 people, you can change that number on my website to 3 people, 4 people, 2 people. And as you do, all the ingredients will automatically change, telling you how much you will need to serve those 2 or 3 or 4, 5, 6 people. Okay? You don't have to work anything out. So, but this is for 6 people, and I'll show you the ingredients first, and then we'll carry on from there. Okay? So, we've got the ingredients now. I've got some sausages. I'm using pork sausages here. These are sausages I made myself, but you can buy sausages any kind you want. The beauty of this recipe is, if you're working on a budget, you can buy budget sausages. Most supermarkets sell them. Or if you've got plenty of money to spare, just for a couple of you, you can buy more expensive ones. This is the beauty of this dish. You can make it as cheap or as expensive as you wish, depending on which sausages you buy. So I've got, remember, the recipe, all these ingredients will be listed underneath the video. You'll see it'll say, if you scroll down, it will say show more. Click on that and the whole ingredient list will open up. Okay, so we've got the sausages. I've got a tablespoonful of curry powder. Now, the reason I use curry powder in this as opposed to when I'm making an Indian dish is, in an Indian dish, all the spices in different recipes are in different proportions. You can't do that with a curry powder. If you want it hotter, buy a hotter curry powder. If you want it milder, buy a mild curry powder. Okay, so I've got curry powder, I've got onion, I've got carrot, I've got some butter, I've got some plain flour, I've got some chicken stock, I've got some mango chutney. Now, if you haven't got mango chutney, you can use any fruit chutney. It doesn't make any difference. A fruit chutney is nice in this. Well, it's not essential, but it's nice. And I've also got a half a teaspoon of white pepper, salt and sugar. I'll just go through them again for you. I've got the sausages, I've got some curry powder, I've got the salt, pepper and sugar, I've got the butter, I've got carrots, onion, plain flour, chicken stock and mango chutney. You use any kind of chutney you've got, okay? So these are the ingredients and we'll get on with making the curry. So the first thing we're going to do is to melt the butter in a nice heavy base pan. Heat the butter up. Then I'm going to pop in the sausages because I want to give them a colour. I'm not actually cooking them at this stage, but I want to give them a nice colour. Okay, so these are going to go in here now and I'm going to just gently colour them, keep turning them, and I'll come back when they're ready. Okay, here we are. There are the sausages, all nice and brown now. I've removed them from the pan and I'm going to now add to this pan my onions. To the same pan. Now you can at this stage, if you wish, add some garlic. I'm not using garlic today, but I'm going to just leave it as it is, okay? For now. Just soften those for a few minutes, that's all. They don't need to brown or anything like that, just nice and soft. And then we're going to add to that the carrots. Add the carrots. We're going to add the salt, the pepper and the sugar. And we're going to add the curry powder also. And we're going to give that a nice mix. And I'm just going to leave those to soften a little bit more now. Just leave those for a few more minutes, probably 2 minutes, that's all. And then we're going to add the flour. Give that a mix as well. And once that's mixed in, absorbed any fat that's remaining in there, we're going to add then the stock. Now this is the stock. I'm using a stock cube today, made up to 500 mils. If you use a stock cube, bear in mind it has salt in it already, so adjust the salt accordingly. If you're buying stock ready-made in a carton or a jar, it will tell you whether it's got salt in or not. Some have, some haven't. I'm using this anyway, and that's going in straight away like that. And when it comes up to the boil, I'm going to turn it down and leave it to simmer for about 15 minutes. Now what I've done is I've cut my sausages on the diagonal into smaller pieces because I'm going to share it. If you want to leave them whole, that's entirely up to you. Now this has been simmering now for about 15 minutes. I'm going to pop the sausages back in there, and remember we didn't cook the sausages thoroughly throughout, so what we're going to do is we're going to mix those in with the curry sauce. And I'm going to bring that up to simmer, and I'm going to put a top on it now, and I'm going to leave it for another 10 minutes. Now, just before I serve it, I'm going to add, at the very last minute, my tablespoon of mango chutney. Now, as I said to you before, it doesn't have to be mango chutney, it can be any fruit chutney you like. But I'm just going to add that, give it a little stir in, and I'm going to serve that now with some steamed rice, but you can serve it with mashed potato or anything you wish, okay? There's my rice, and this is my sausage, easy sausage curry. That, I think, is very, very nice. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, go underneath the video, you'll see the recipe where it says show more. If you want to leave a thumbs up, if you've enjoyed it, do that. If you want to subscribe and you haven't already done so, click on the subscribe button and you will see a little bell icon. If you click on that, that will allow YouTube to tell you every time I put up a new video. If you have any questions, suggestions, or any queries, underneath where it says suggestions, or what does it say, sorry, comments, sorry, it says comments. I do read them all. I do try to answer as many as I can. I can't promise to answer every single one, but I do read them all, and I do appreciate you coming to see me today. Mr. Paul saying bye for now, and I'll see you next time. Bye.